Testing, testing. I always feel a bit anxious when I'm about to speak at the beginning of shooting a YouTube video. Like I'm under pressure, like I'm presenting. I might be having a midlife crisis. 50 years old, if you can still call that midlife. Isn't the average death age for a man 75 or something like that? What's half of that? 37 and a half, that would be middle age, wouldn't it? I'm way past that. There you go, see, that's a good example. I'm trying to be funny because I feel nervous. I feel anxious about just speaking the truth. And the truth is that putting myself in front of the camera, I've been finding it sort of a little bit more difficult recently. And I think that's not because of any sort of crisis of confidence, really. It's more like wanting to be bright and happy and enthusiastic about something and have something great to show you. And I often don't feel like I have something great to show you, and I don't feel like I have that enthusiasm. I think part of me wants to be kind of more honest. That I do, like anyone, have days when I can't be bothered, but it's not laziness. It's got something to do with a lack of motivation. It's got to do with fear holding me back, or negativity, anxiety. What if I do this and it's no good? What if I do it and it's kind of good but nobody watches it? Was there any point? Should you make a video just for the sake of building an audience, or should you make the video because you're passionate about it? You're passionate about the thing you're making a video about. This leads right into what part of my problem is at the moment, that to make videos about things that I feel passionate about, or that I think are going to be really good videos, they're just so time consuming that I don't feel like I have the time. I'm parenting 2 weekends out of 3. Monday is just a day for taking my daughter to school, seeing if I can get some admin stuff done, picking her up from school, parenting for the evening. Tuesday, I'm teaching at a college all day. Wednesday, I'm teaching at a different branch of the same college all day. Thursday and Friday, I teach as many private guitar lessons as I can, and then we're back to Saturday, which, Friday or Saturday may sometimes contain a paid gig, and if it's the type of gig where I have to go and play guitar with a band that I've never met, then that involves learning a lot of songs, which just adds to my work throughout the week. Where does YouTube fit into that? Unless I'm just going to take the camera around with me all the time and just vlog that, a vlog of this is what it's like to do parenting, this is what it's like to teach private guitar lessons, this is what it's like to teach in a college, this is what it's like to play a wedding gig. And I don't know, maybe some people out there who don't do any of that would find that really interesting for one video, maybe. I don't know. I don't find it interesting because I do it all the time, so it doesn't seem interesting to me. I think when I watch YouTube, I'm watching videos about people who are living a completely different lifestyle to me, who are living in a van. They've gone off to live in Portugal. They're renovating a ruin in Italy. They're building a log cabin in either Canada or Alaska. I find these videos really interesting. And there is a big part of me that wants to go and do something like that. But you can't do that when you're 50, when you haven't got any spare money, and when your daughter is 11 years old and still in school. I think part of what I wanted to talk about, and it's kind of weird talking about this because it's personal and it's nobody else's business. But I guess, I do feel frustrated, and I feel a bit trapped. And yet all the decisions that led me here were the decisions that I made. It was my decision to pursue music rather than, something else that would be obviously far more lucrative. But if I was the kind of person who chased money, I'd be working in banking or IT or whatever, and I never have been the kind of person to chase money. I've always felt that, love and art and life and joy are more important than money and security and houses and cars and swimming pools and lovely holidays. If you work really hard at something you hate for 50 or 48 weeks of the year, and then you have 2 or 4 weeks of wonderful holiday that's incredibly expensive, that's a lot of pressure, isn't it, to enjoy your life on those 2 or 4 weeks. And then you've got all that drudgery to get through. That's never really added up well in my mind. No. There's a couple of other things I want to add to this, which is feeling like you're not doing anything well enough, with enough energy, gusto, commitment, time, effort, and also gratitude or a lack of it. So I do frequently these days feel like I'm just not doing things very well. Quite often recently I feel like I fall short as a parent, and I think that's partly, how does a 50-year-old man understand what an 11-year-old girl wants? I guess apart from her dad to be present and available and to listen, and I tried my best with those. But I think it's kind of easier with a younger kid who's more enthusiastic. You know, you show them things and they go, woo, you know. And then when they're 11, you show them things and they go, so? But, you know, I was exactly the same. Certainly from the age of 13 onwards, I was exactly like that. Embarrassed by my parents and sort of sarcastic and, you know. Yeah, so I understand all of that. She's a great kid and I'm really lucky. And plus, you know, a lot of parents have their kids 24/7. And, you know, I have my daughter with me for less than 50% of the time. You know, 35-40% of the time, let's say. I haven't sat and figured out an equation to work that out. In some ways that makes it easier. You're not having to parent all the time. So you can, when you are parenting, maybe you can put your energy into that, your time and focus into that. But in some ways it makes it harder, because when you've missed your child, I think there's some part of you that kind of wants them to be pleased to see you. And that might not be what's on their mind, you know. And when it's a little kid, it's like, Daddy, you know, and you get that. And when they're 11 or older, maybe you don't get that. Maybe you just get this. And that's not because of you. It's because they've had a long day at school, or they're just a long week at school and they're tired, or, you know, they're hormonal, or they're, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just a difficult transition as a parent because it's a difficult transition as a child becoming a teenager. We all know that's difficult, and difficult for the parent too. Yeah, so that feeling of not doing things well, is it just a matter of judgment? This overarching feeling of not managing to do things as well as you think you could, or know you could, and then at the same time there's always a balance to that. Like, am I being too hard on myself? Am I expecting too much? You know, I've got a lot on my plate in terms of work, parenting, you know, worrying about money, and then there's all the other bullshit that's not worth mentioning, like, you know, washing, cleaning, tidying, gardening, sorting the car out, you know, and at some point trying to have some fun. So maybe I'm a bit too hard on myself. Maybe. I don't know. This is like a therapy session, you know, and I probably should be telling all this to my therapist, but I don't have one and I can't afford one. I did look into that BetterHelp thing. I thought that was a great idea, but too expensive. So I also want to talk about gratitude, but I guess the other side of feeling like you're not managing to do as well at the various aspects of your life as you wish you could, you know, that's like the opposite of contentment, isn't it? It's the opposite of satisfaction, of that feeling that hey, I've done what I need to do. I've done all right, you know. I got paid. No one's complaining about the result. I feel good. I can relax now. Perhaps that's another thing that falls into that sort of general idea of, you know, you can't control what people say or do, but you can control your reaction to it. Whereas in this case, it's more like, if nobody's having a bad reaction or saying anything or doing anything to tell you you've done a bad job, maybe you should relax. I get hired over and over again You know, people come back for guitar lessons. So maybe I judge myself too harshly. I think I am my own harshest and worst critic, which can be exhausting. Yes, the other thing I wanted to talk about was gratitude, because, you know, if you're feeling unhappy, discontented, often the wisdom is to count your blessings. Some people advise every night, think of 3 things you're grateful for before you go to sleep. And I've tried that in the past, and I kept on sort of naming the same 3 things, and I'm pretty sure that's not what you're supposed to do. But, you know, if you think big things, then I'm grateful for my daughter, I'm grateful for my partner, I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful for my musical ability and for the career it has given me. And I think that's all well and good. I think that's healthy. But I think there's another side to it, that maybe if you're constantly trying to feel grateful or trying to remind yourself that you've got things that you should be grateful for, is that in any way maybe stopping you from doing what you really want to do? Is it a way of feeling more satisfied with something that's not very satisfactory? Is it a way of coping when things are a bit shit? That I'm not happy about my work, I'm not happy about the weather, I'm not happy about the crappy English summertime that's already over, I'm not happy about living in suburbia, I'm not happy about how much everything costs in London, I'm not happy about working hard and never having any money left over. In that case, is trying to be grateful for what you've got, is that a way of just coping with things being a bit naff? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but is there an alternative, right? Because if you feel like you're stuck in the situation, or you're either stuck or committed, depending on how you look at it, then maybe there's no alternative. If I'm not going to leave, which I'm not, because my daughter and my partner are the most important people in my life, so I'm not going to leave them, right? But if I'm not going to go off and live in a van, or live in a hut, or build a log cabin, or renovate a ruin in Italy, if I'm not going to do any of that, if I'm not going to live a completely different life and throw off these shackles of rent or mortgage and working all the time to have nothing left, working all the time to just manage to keep a roof over your head, and it's a nice roof, I don't own it, I just rent it, but it is a nice roof. If you're not going to get out of that situation and buy a piece of land where you can build your own home on it, and not have a mortgage, and not work the 9 to 5, and be outside more, and be more physical, and lose weight because you're working hard, doing physical labor, and just being closer to nature. If you're not going to go and do all of that, if you're going to keep doing this, then maybe gratitude is the best coping mechanism. Maybe that's the best thing, to say, I'm so grateful for my daughter, and I'm so grateful for my partner, and I'm so proud to be a dad, and I'm so lucky to have fallen in love after, you know, when I fell in love 3 years ago, it was the first time I'd fallen in love in nearly 20 years. So it's a good thing, it's a big thing, it's an important thing. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for listening.